I grew up listening to CBC radio, and one of the things you hear a lot on CBC radio is just what is the Canadian identity? This seemed to be a big question for the CBC and its listeners, and it always struck me like where are you from? What do you mean you don't understand the Canadian identity? For me, growing up in rural Alberta, it was all around me. It was the cold, it was the snow, the northern lights. Canadians are shaped by our climate, by our weather, by our topography. And it just certainly hit me like a sledgehammer when I was a kid. So I never understood that. I always wondered, where did this come from? The interesting thing right now in Edmonton is that this thing that's shaped me, that shaped my identity, is starting to be expressed in our artwork and our architecture. Alex Janvier is a native artist who grew up in the Cold Lake area, and in his paintings, he started to do abstract, semi-abstract images of Alberta, this world in his paintings. An architect who grew up in Red Deer, Douglas Cardinal, he saw Janvier's paintings and he thought, that's really cool. I'm going to try to do that in my buildings. And a quote from Cardinal on this is about Janvier. He was an inspiration to me on the way that he stylized these natural forms in his work. It's not just native artists. Both Cardinal and Janvier have native ancestry, have been shaped by these climatic forces and by our landscape. The new art gallery of Alberta, its architect, who's a guy from Tennessee, he came up here and he practices organic architecture. So he wants to say something about the place and about the people who live there in his work. And you see that in the sculptural form of the Art Gallery of Alberta, which is called the Borealis, and both mimics the Aurora Borealis and the river of our city. It's also in the new museum, where Ryan Gedney, the architect of that, his whole purpose was to show kind of the spirit of the Alberta people in this dynamic building, but also the form of snowbanks and of the Northern Lights again. The whole thing comes full circle. The main piece of art at the arena is by Alex Janvier, and it is a mosaic which shows Alberta's climate and the topography of the Edmonton area.